Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to The Divorce Show. I'm your host of The Divorce Show. My name is The Spoiler, and this program is created to have dialogue about love, marriage, and relationships in the modern time. Our ideals about love, marriage, and relationships are dated in my thinking. And we have these warm, fuzzy feelings that we run off of, and we're going to go and get married. Now, here's a disclaimer. I'm not against marriage. Trust me, I'm not against marriage. I'm against the miseducation that we have and the connotation that we have when we're going to get married or say we're going to do that. We live in a very fantasy type world, and we're sold an idea about how marriage is supposed to be. In reality, what we're doing is crashing and burning. You look at the divorce rates, if you look at the marriage rates, and we're going to study in here, you're going to see where this thing is a little awry. So you're wondering why you can't find the perfect male and female, right? We're going to discover those things as we go into further episodes of the discussion. So I want you to be all part of the discussion. You'll find this video on my YouTube channel, The Divorce Show, and a link will be posted on my Facebook page, The Divorce Show. So let's get into, how we got into this thing. Marriage is governed by state law. The connotation of marriage came about it was built for females. Men were so-called marrying these ladies and having more than one family and just leaving one for another and leaving the person destitute. So state law or civil law was created to basically govern that civil contract and make sure that you took care of your obligation. Now in the modern time, that's a little dated because now ladies are finding themselves on the other side of that coin. And it shouldn't be used to just tear down a person just because they are the breadwinner of the family. But that's many times what it's used for. Unless you got a lot of money and a bunch of lawyers to fight those things for years on out, us average working folks, we don't have that. We don't have that at all. And we're getting tore down in this thing, and our rates are showing that. Now, one thing I want to point out, if you go and Google marriage rates in the modern time, they'll say the millennials have a more successful rate because they're waiting longer to get married. You can look at the numbers that way, but you got to remember, if you're in my age demographic, over your 50s, right, you got a longer timeline to study. Whereas with the millennials, they're waiting longer to get married, so their timeline is shorter because they haven't even reached this point yet. So to say they have a more successful rate, that's premature in my eyes. We can argue the fact, but that's premature. You got to wait some time and see how they develop in this thing. So let's get into the cycle of marriage and divorce, and then in later episodes we'll take up the relationships and all those things that are affecting us in love life and marriage. Now from the start, like I said, being married is governed by the state. Your state government, wherever you are, governs your marriage. Now, when you go to apply for marriage license or certificate, where do you go? You go to the state government. Now, a lot of people have this connotation that their marriage is somehow connected to their religion, and that their religion, because they have a religious ceremony with their marriage. But understand something. You start your business with the state, you end your business with the state. The church aspect of it is all ceremonial. The church got on to the marriage thing well after the civil law was established. So now, if you look at your state statutes, right, it'll tell you more than likely that your marriage license, marriage certificate is actually a civil contract. And who are you contracting with? You're not contracting with each other, you're contracting with the state. So in actuality, you're married to the state, but you have a relationship with each other. And I'm gonna let you digest that one. Again, you are married to the state. Your contract is with the state government. It's not even with each other. So when you go to apply for your marriage license, get it, right? You're really having a marriage contract, and the terms to be set forth by the state of wherever you live when one or both parties want to terminate that contract, and you sign and date. Now, if it looked like that, and then it had this fine print here that says that if you're the highest income earner and it's a bitter breakup, you're gonna pay out your ass. And that's the truth. Ask anybody that has ever been divorced that has had a difficult divorce, not where everybody agrees or anything like that. They paid out their ass. If that was presented to you when you went to get your marriage contract, would you sign on the dotted line? No, they make it sound good with marriage license or marriage certificate. So right up top, you're being lied to, because you're in the warm fuzzy feelings at this point. And this flow chart will be, I'll put a picture of the flow chart so you can print it out and kind of follow it later. It'll be on my Facebook page. If it was presented as a marriage contract with these kind of terms, simple terms, would you sign? Run that through your head. That's why it's presented as a marriage license. You fill out an application, you got your birth certificate and your ID, and no, you're not first cousins and all that shit, and you're off to the races. No problem. No mention of the state law, what it really means, and this, that, and the other. So is it a case of buyer beware? This is your life you're talking about. Buyer beware? Oh, you should be smart enough to go check out the state statutes? Most young folks don't even know what fucking state statutes is. So now, you're in the warm, fuzzy feeling, oh, we're gonna last forever, we're gonna do this thing, and blah, blah, blah. And now, there's a whole industry that was ready for you and your warm, fuzzy feelings to get you married. That whole fantasy land that you grow up with as you're coming up, going to prom, going to the high school dance, getting dressed up. Oh, they look so cute as a couple. Suckerville. They're setting you up for Suckerville, right? That's fantasy land. And that carries over until you get into this marriage industry. Now, here's some facts. Here's some facts. And they're estimated numbers, but you check them out on your own, right? Because we could debate this. I'm inviting everybody to the conversation and to the table, right? 2.5 million weddings per year, estimated. 2.5 million, right? The wedding industry being a $53.4 billion a year industry. I need to get into this, right? So that includes your church. That includes the wedding planners, the jewelry, the travel industry, flyers, caterers, clothing, tuxedos, dresses, all of that. $53.4 billion to get you into this game, right? And what are you really after? You're after this commitment here to make this fantasy come through. That's really what you're after. And you're going to run off the arm of your state government to hammer in or cement this commitment. The reality of it is that if a person wants to be married or committed to you, they will. This state law will not make a person more committal. Because at the end of the day, if it's going to crash, it's going to crash. So let's take it on down. Now, you're married and you got the happy little family here. Look at Rover, right? You like Rover? You got the kids, the family, the picket fence here, the nice house. And now the realities of family life come to head. And that's when you start, about 3 to 5 years, you start to question that commitment, whether or not you both are still in there, or one person's in there more than another. And that's where you start to question things. And this is where I say the fantasy comes to die. So now you had Fantasyland up here, you had the great wedding and, Barbie and all that other shit, Cinderella. And now this is where all of that comes to die. Because why? All of this was included in the fantasy, but it wasn't included in the fantasy of real life. So now it's setting you up for dealing with your doctors and therapists and counselors and possibly being on meds, one person or another, or the kids and this, that, and the other. And now it becomes a very surreal psychological trip. Not everybody goes down that road, but the majority of us, especially in the modern time, with mental health being more prevalent as a forefront and counseling, right? You start to deal with that whole industry. And what kind of money that is, I don't even know, right? But what it's doing really is setting you up for a date with the wolves. And if you don't know what the wolves is, I'm finna explain it to you. The wolves are the lawyers, the judges, and all that whole divorce industry that's gonna rob your pockets. So now you're at this stage and you're questioning that whole commitment level, and what are you doing? Now check this out. We got 2.5 million weddings per year. We've got over 1 million divorces a year. We've got $53.4 billion to get you married. We've got $50 billion industry to get you divorced. We're paying at the top. We're paying at the bottom. And some of us, we're paying more than once, more than twice, 3 times, 4 times to get into this thing, only to crash. Now, what I'm proposing today won't stop a crash. Your relationship is your relationship. So we'll go into the things that supposedly help not crash a relationship. Today is just the intro to get you into the door to the conversation. Because you got to remember, at the end of every marriage that crash, the wolves are waiting on you, right? The wolves are waiting on you, that's for sure. So now, what am I talking about? I'm not trying to sell you anything or anything like that. We have to start talking about the business of marriage right up top when we have the warm, fuzzy feeling. What I propose that we do is that we cut the government out of this thing. You see, the whole circle leads back to your state government. So if you do your things like talking about the business of marriage, along with your warm, you can have the warm, fuzzy feelings. Hell, you can even get married. But you do your things like your prenups. It makes you mindful of your business as a couple. And then you update that when you have life events. So that going into the thing, if it crashes, you already know what you're gonna do. If you've never been through a divorce, one that's very highly contested, or the other person, one person or another turns into an evil motherfucker at the end of the divorce. When it's divorce time, one of these two, if not both, turn into evil motherfuckers. And these are people that we say that we love. Now, if you're into unconditional love, right, you wouldn't turn into an evil motherfucker at the end. But if you love with conditions, and most of us do, right, at least you won't have the financial crash at the end. And this is where we're making this mistake at. In the modern time, our odds, right, are not with us. Half of you motherfuckers are gonna get divorced. So let's stop playing this game and be adults about what we're doing right up top. This thing may not work out. Forever ain't forever. This ain't fucking 1940 no more. We have to stop playing these games with ourselves. Okay? And so it reminds me of the gay people. They went and, they wanted the right to get married and stuff like that. They're crashing and burning with the rest of us. Welcome to the party. The folks that marriage was taken under a religious connotation. Okay, but their race ain't no better than nobody else either. They're crashing and burning. Okay, so now if we're gonna get married, let's talk about the business of marriage, along with the warm fuzzy feelings, and not just run off of the emotion. So that hopefully if your marriage crashes, right, financially, you don't crash with it. So some of you might say, well, who the fuck are you? Who made you the great expert? I've been married twice. And the second one was a long term, over 20, right? So I know this game. And I would not go into any kind of relationship moving forward after knowing what I know without letting that female sign a prenup to protect herself. Why? Because I love her unconditionally. I wouldn't want to see her do that. And if the marriage didn't work out, we already know the terms and we go our separate ways. That doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It just means that financially you just don't fucking crash. And you're kind of cutting into the wolves. Right? Now, yeah, they'll get paid to draft the paperwork, to update your paperwork on a regular basis. But until, like I said, you've been in there and they chopping you up, right? That feeling is unreal. I can't explain it to you. So be part of the conversation. We're going to have videos coming out regarding relationships and how people see it. In the modern times, you have to remember, we are in a different time. Our ideals of marriage have not caught up with the times. You can go meet a motherfucker online, date online, video chat online. You couldn't do that years ago. But yet, we still are trying to apply this old connotation to a modern world, and we're crashing 50 billion's worth. Over 1 million divorces. We're crashing. Yet we're sitting there talking about, oh, I can't find somebody, or nobody wants to be monogamous, all this other, whatever. We'll take that up in other episodes of the thing, right? Follow me on Facebook, The Spoiler. The Divorce Show is my page. Follow me on YouTube, The Divorce Show, and The Spoiler is the page there too. Let's be part of the discussion. I'm looking forward to interacting with you. If you want to come on, throw your view, whether it's for or against. I welcome you to come on the show, and we'll set it in the studio, and we'll talk about those issues and get them out there, because I want us to have a community type feel and discussion on this thing. That's it for me. I want to thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And again, be part of the discussion. I am the spoiler. This is the Divorce Show, and I'll catch you on the next one.